last Friday. Very good. Good evening, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. Regular City Council meeting for January 17th, 2023. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Miriam Abadamos.
Here.
Councilmember Mark Joseph.
I'm here.
Councilmember David Oro.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pierre Washington.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Thank you. Report on closed session, confirmation, reportable action. Mr. Ross?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the public, your council convened in open session at 5:31 p.m. to address the matters agendized for closed session consideration. And after ascertaining there was no public comment on those matters, did so at 5:34 p.m. You concluded at 6:34 p.m. with respect to consideration of agenda item number 1 only. And with respect to agenda item number 1 only, I will do a written report upon return from closed session consistent with Government Code Section 54957.1, reflecting direction given by council on one of the matters, which also may be the subject of council comment later in this proceeding. That would conclude the report upon return from closed session, noting that item number 2 may be considered by your council at the conclusion of this meeting, depending upon time. If there are questions, we can answer them.
Any questions from council? No. Seeing none, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Before we begin, just like to say Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome. And a beautiful, clear day today. Sign of our future. Thank you. Proclamations and presentation. Administer the oath of office to Finance Director Juan Gomez. All right, congratulations. And Mr. Gomez, I understand you're local residents? Is that right? Well, some of us are neighbors, are we?
Actually, he's my neighbor, just right around the corner
That's
from
what
me.
I understood. Very good. Okay, the public comments, any item not on the agenda?
Yes, Mayor Garcia. I'm going to call Omar Crespo.
Thank you, sir. You? That's it.
Thank you. Okay.
Happy New Year, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk in public, one of my biggest challenge. As an architect and planner, I have the responsibility to express my opinion. And my opinion about the Homekey project and that package that I just delivered has the letter dated June 7 from the American Canyon, the lawsuit against the project, also has two documents, the traffic study that American Canyon prepared in 2018, and a project, the Broadway Avenue project, which have been done. As a planner, we use those documents as guidelines, not to sit in a shelf. We are building, we are not, they are building a disastrous project against the Broadway Avenue. The problem that I have when a doctor have a patient that die, no one knows 6 months later. But when a building is done for 55 years, it's there forever. I have to bring a couple of things here. In the doc, I want the new members to read very well those documents that Vallejo have ignored. American Canyon in 25 years have done whatever cities, other cities have not done in 100. Thank you, Mayor. I don't know how many terms you're going to be here, but I wish you the best. But the results are here. But you could see very well the difference between American Canyon and Vallejo. It's pretty obvious. My point here is that Governor Newsom, in the urgency of having so much money available during COVID, create an email creating CEQA exemptions to convert hotels into housing. There is one technicality that can be challenged very easy for new construction. There is no need to do new construction. Vallejo has plenty of buildings that they can use. During World War II, after Pearl Harbor, there was the urgency to do lots of buildings. And the payment that we have to pay by cleaning up the environmental problems, but it was justified because of a war. But just to put 48 families, we are damaging American Canyon and the image of the entrance of Napa Valley. And everybody is so relaxed about that. Litigations are made to create avenues of communication. It's not create a little Vietnam between both. But we have to communicate. And they could set an example for other cities to challenge things that doesn't make sense. America only have 200 years. California has 170. And
I'm
American
sorry,
Canyon
sir,
have
you're
just
at time.
25. Please consider litigation to create and bring those issues and avoid that building for 55 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another speaker on items not on the agenda?
Margaret Sharkey. Margaret Sharkey, please.
Happy New Year. I'm going to read this really
Good evening.
quick. Good evening, Council. This is in regard to the Homekey project that the Council is evaluating for anticipated litigation during your earlier closed session. Let me start by saying the whole purpose of the June 7th letter the American Canyon Council authorized and delivered to Vallejo was to point out to Vallejo that there is a very specific statute that is applicable to this Homekey project. First, this project to construct a 48-unit permanent housing apartment on less than half an acre unequivocally exceeds the 10% improvement limit contained in Public Resource Code 50675.1 and therefore precludes its use as a viable basis for CEQA exemption. In other words, if you have vacant land and then it's going to be developed in association with a Homekey project, you have to comply with CEQA. Vallejo has not complied with the statutes specifically applicable to Home Key CEQA. CEQA requires that a project be supported by substantial evidence in the administrative record and an explanation of how this evidence supports the conclusion. Second, the issue of what kind of development you get on your borders is of critical importance to all residents of American Canyon. What if it was a liquor store, marijuana dispensary, right next to your main park? Just because this is a Home Key project, is it somehow totally exempt? This is especially important for vacant land, new construction, which makes up less than 1% of Home Key projects. You can't just treat new construction like it's not subject to a permit. What are the environmental issues? Sometimes traffic and parking are an issue, but it isn't for you to prove that there's a parking deficit. It's for Vallejo to show through CEQA analysis. It's not just a claim, that it's exempt, but it is defined through their analysis. You do know that the original 16 parking spaces have been reduced to 5 + 1. For permanent housing, 1 to 1.5 parking spaces per unit is required. This project has 0 per unit. Why would American Canyon wait until there's a problem and not be proactive, knowing there will be a problem? Third, Vallejo continues to misrepresent matters of public record to American Canyon. Under prior legal filings, both appropriate notice and opportunity to be heard be given to persons whose property interests may significantly be affected. If you're within 500 feet of a project, you have a constitutional right. But this project was rammed through under misleading agenda items, even prior to the public being aware there was a Home Key project on this site. Lastly, this project should not be justified or sugar-coated by comparing it to Valley View project. Until you have specifics in writing from a person of authority, namely the mayor of Vallejo or city council, that this project will be just like the Valley View project, this comparison should not be used to minimize the impact it will have on
Ma'am,
surrounding
you're at
residents.
time.
I'm sorry. This council needs to authorize intervention on this project to ensure this project is not only compliant under CEQA, but also assures your residents their government is engaged and is protecting their interests
Ma'am, if you
and
could wrap
rights.
it up now,
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you.
William Baker. William Baker.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council
Evening.
members. Firstly, my best wishes to you and your families in this new year. The Broadway project remains one of the most critical issues facing American Canyon parks and neighborhoods. The city needs to get behind the small group of citizens that stepped up to protect its parks and neighbors from this project. We are not just suing the city of Vallejo through a CEQA complaint. We are knocking on doors, signing petitions, showing up at city council meetings, leading discussions on social media, and sharing analysis with state, county, and local governments. The local press also covers our activities. The Broadway project is not a low-income development for veterans. It is permanent supportive housing aimed at the 195 chronically homeless individuals in Solano County. Wishful thinking or winking a nod by Vallejo citizens to screen offenders from this project is neither legal nor moral. Today, 40% of operating Home Key projects across the state house convicted sex offenders, and I fully agree. This is perhaps one of the most discriminated groups in our community, and they should have access to projects like Home Key to re-enter society safely. The Broadway project needs to move, not to set discriminating policies against the people it is designed to help. Some may ask how the nearly 100 petitioners and I are sure this will be the calamity that we are claiming. First, consider the City of Vallejo's recent track record in dealing with the homeless. The City of Vallejo experienced, some would say is responsible for, the deaths of 6 homeless individuals under the Room Key project, the predecessor of Home Key. That is 10 times the death rate of Room Key projects in Los Angeles County. This is the track record of the city building permanent supportive housing next to our park. Some doubt climate change or even California's water shortage. The City of American Canyon has correctly been proactive in both these cases of existential threats to our way of life. This is leadership, getting out in front of problems. Shall we wait to act until after a Broadway project resident is found in our Veterans Memorial Park, sitting next to a birthday party bouncy castle, masturbating? Like the water crisis and climate crisis, the City of American Canyon must act now to thwart this real threat. Join us, get in front of this issue, and defend your parks, neighborhoods, and citizens from this existential threat. Thank you.
Russell Charpentier. Also, for speakers, I just want to note you have 3 minutes. At the 30-second mark, you're going to see a yellow light, and then that gives you the cue that you need to wrap up in 30 seconds. Thank you.
Dear council members, Happy New Year.
Please speak in the mic, please.
Dear council members, Happy New Year. Some months ago, I came before this council to make you aware of the grave concerns I and other city residents have regarding placing the Broadway Street Home Key project on the border of our largest city park and children's playground. On June 6th, this council unanimously approved a letter presented to the Vallejo City Council outlining numerous deficiencies in the City of Vallejo's process in the pursuit of this project. Its total avoidance to address the CEQA and discretionary review process as required for the development of Home Key projects being built on undeveloped land as any other city would have to do. A group of American Canyon citizens were so concerned by the potential negative long-term consequences this 55-year project is going to have on our southern border that we took it upon ourselves to hire an attorney and file a complaint. Our goal was to hold the city of Vallejo accountable, as any other city would be, to adhere to requirements under CEQA for new construction such as this. Some on this council have said that Vallejo has stated that this project will be similar to our very successful Valley View low-income project, and they are therefore not in opposition to it. Valley View is a false equivalent. Other than accepting voucher-qualified residents, it has no resemblance to Valley View. Home Key is targeted to chronically homeless, drug and alcohol-addicted individuals with mental issues. Valley View does not accept any individuals with a history of these issues in their past. Home Key's 48 300-square-foot stacked units are 100% dedicated to the homeless population. Valley View has 2 formerly homeless veterans in its 70 units, 300 to 780 square foot freestanding detached units. Home Key has 2 parking spaces for its potential 96 residents. Valley View's 70 parking spaces are for its 70 units. Home Key has minimal case management required to meet once a month. Valley View's 0 case management in its assisted living, and the differences go on. The bottom line is Home Key project is continuing on, even though it's missed many of its deadlines. No one other than the group of American Canyon citizens is willing to hold them accountable as any other city would be. Why? A considerable population of homeless in Vallejo are registered sex offenders and will very likely be residents in this project. So I guess my time is up. My plea is, please, please do what needs to be done here and help us, your citizens, defend against this. Thank you.
Vaughn Altizier.
Happy New Year. Good evening, Mayor Garcia,
Put the microphone down, please.
Vice Mayor, and City Councils. I I would like to introduce myself. My name is Vaughn Altizer, the owner and operator of Napa Valley Casino. I am here to to speak about making a change in the card room ordinance to allow the future growth. We have limited opportunity for the new moratorium to put in place. As you know, currently, there is little or no chance to grow. We would like the possibility to be, so we may have a chance to build and partner with the amazing city. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jason Giannini.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I just want to emphasize what Vaughn is saying, that we really have a unique opportunity here to change our local ordinance without having to go through the state with the ending of the moratorium in January. This is not giving us more tables right now, but giving you the option in the future to allow our card room to grow with our city. So please consider the email that we sent for you guys to get us on your next agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Karina Cervente. Who? Lorenzo? Lorenzo?
Good evening, welcome.
Hi.
You can adjust the mic for yourself.
Hello, council members. I have come to discuss a very important issue regarding our American Canyon Little League. As a player for AC Little League, this year's team of 8th graders is playing the Community Park 1 field near ACMS. Our team practices there for baseball and football, and I can tell you now that it is one of the worst fields I've ever played on. The grass hasn't been maintained in years, so it feels like you're playing in a minefield. The dirt will scrape the skin right off your leg if you slide, causing many injuries. This field is long overdue for serious maintenance. Please, council members, I'm pleading to you, take care of Community Park 1 by maintaining the grass, filling the holes, and giving us real dirt, for it is the only field we have.
Next speaker, please.
Karina?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Thank you. Good evening. Happy New Year to everyone. And I, as a former Parks and Community Service Commissioner, I brought up this issue with Community Park 1 many times to our former director. I brought it up to during PCS meetings to our new director, and now we're bringing it up to you. This park is used year-round. It is used by the Junior Wolves Football League, which has hundreds of kids there, and also by Little League and by the community. And it's just, it's embarrassing to be in a park that is subpar to the many other cities that come and play against the juniors, the Little League, Junior League. And a lot of parents have come up to me and said, Karina, what can we do? And tell the truth, I kind of got, I feel like I've, speaking to the air sometimes and nobody's listening, but I hope that you listen and you see an experienced player here coming and asking for you to fix the park. It's just, a lot of you run under the platform. Some of the platforms that you run under is that you're here for the community, for the youth. So this is the perfect example to support the youth here in our city, because hundreds of kids utilize that park, and it's just in bad shape. So they're going to be starting to practice in February. So you have a little time to fix the problem. So we hope that you fix it. I have a little bit of time, so I want to piggyback on what the folks they have spoken about Home Key project. And one thing that I've noticed is that the construction people have taken over all the parking spots on the Veterans Park and the dog park. There's absolutely no parking whatsoever there for anybody that wants to use the park. So that's just like it shows me that once that project is done, if it's done, I hope it's not, there's going to be no parking for anybody to park in that place because they're going to, take over all the parking spots in the neighborhood. So I agree with everything that they say. Thank you.
Lisa Chu.
Hello, my name is Lisa Chu, and for those who don't know me, I am a school board member on the NVUSD Board of Education. I'm also a resident of American Canyon since 2008. And I'm speaking today as both an elected official and also a resident. The NVUSD School Board is tasked with ensuring the district is in good financial health and provides overall direction of schools by setting goals and policies within the framework of the statutes enacted by the California legislation. We accomplish this by employing one employee. We employed Superintendent Dr. Rosanna Musetti to manage the day-to-day operation of the school district. In these ways, our role parallels the role that City Council plays for American Canyon. You are tasked with similar responsibilities for your jurisdiction, the City of American Canyon, and you employ City Manager Mr. Jason Hawley to manage the day-to-day operations of city staff. In both the school board and City Council, we represent our constituents' voice in our respective jurisdictions. And our employees and how they implement the objectives stated by the governing body is a direct reflection of us, the elected officials. So it is incumbent upon us to ensure that our employees are responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of our communities. I did not see this happen at the City Council meeting on December 20th, and specifically on the introduction of Agenda Item 9, matters relating to the selection of Vice Mayor and various City Council committee appointments for 2023. In introducing the agenda item, the city manager explicitly stated that the City Council as a whole should consider employment status and family caregiving responsibilities as factors for committing to your committee appointments. Although these factors may need to be considered privately by individual members, these issues should not be up for discussion by the entire City Council. All elected officials accept the fact that we must address our own work-life balance when we commit to serving our community. And no one knows better than ourselves if we can handle the responsibilities of our elected positions. If we did not believe that to be true, we would not step up to be in this role. And although Mr. Hawley said these things in the context of the new rules on public meetings, of which NVUSD School Board also are subjected to, the issue of work-life balance with respect to family caregiving or employment existed well before the pandemic. So it is unclear to me why these issues needed to be explicitly stated at this time. And archived meeting minutes do not show these issues raised on the same agenda item in previous meetings. We should hold ourselves to a higher standard because we should not normalize these discussions in a public forum. This distracts us from the work that we do as part of our role in our jurisdiction. And I appreciate the diverse perspectives that you all bring to City Council meetings or on committees. Whether you are retired or not, parents or empty nesters, diversity is what makes American Canyon such a great place to live in.
You're
And
at
Mr.
time.
Hawley's statement regarding family commitments and employment status is not consistent with how American Canyon residents value diversity in our community. Thank you.
Rob Hall.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city staff. Appreciate your time here. I'm Rob Hall, American Canyon citizen, been here since 2006. Also member of the community in many ways, American Canyon Little League, member of the supervisory committee, the superintendent supervisory committee for the Napa Valley Unified School District, various sports organizations, was on different task groups for the city as well. So as a full-time working parent, I want to echo the message by Ms. Chu that the comments made were inappropriate and made me feel, as a working parent in this community and an active member of community, marginalized. That as a working parent and part of the community, that I could not perform my work in the same level as somebody who was retired. And as since 3/5 of the current council are parents and or either parents of children at home or working, I mean, that's represents our community. However, the statements made marginalize a huge section of our community. So I'm disappointed. I want to believe that the intent was there to consider these things when taking appointments, but the delivery marginalized a significant percentage of this city. So I was disappointed in the statement and disappointed in council for not recognizing that and commenting on that at the time. So thank you for your time and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Mayor Garcia, I have no more speaker cards for people in. If you have, please bring me.
Yes, I did submit one.
What is your name, please?
Sylvia Regalado Zafra.
Sylvia? Mm. Well, this is just on non-agenda items.
Sorry, and I submitted it for both.
You did?
Non-agenda and item number 2.
Okay, let me look through, I'm sorry. Sylvia, if you could go ahead and make your non-agenda item comment, and if you wouldn't mind filling out another one.
I will be happy to, thank you.
Oh, I see. You marked both with the same card. Okay.
I can fill out
Thank
another
you.
one. Thank
Go
you
ahead.
so much. So my name is Sylvia Regalado Zaclad, and like Ms. Chu and Mr. Hall, I also am here to speak about the manner in which the December 20th meeting was framed, the question. I, as a working mother of 3 children that is heavily involved in this community, I was offended. I was offended by the way in which an elected official was questioned whether their responsibilities would interfere with their civic duty. I think all of us here in American Canyon, and I have met many mothers and fathers, many young men like Mr. Lorenzo, who are giving to this community and who want to make this community stronger, not divide, but to strengthen and bring up everyone in this community. I feel that there are more important items, as what was just discussed with housing issues, with parks and recreation issues, many other things. I invite you to the corner of Silver Oak and White Oak every single morning, Monday through Friday, to see the bottleneck that the new traffic conditions have caused. There are many other things that we should be focused on, especially as city employees, especially as elected officials. And I have reached out to each and every one of you with the expectation that there be an apology for the manner in which that was framed. So I expect that we will do better because we are better. Thank you.
Thank you.
So unless there's other comments in person, I'm going to move to our Zoom participants. I have Tammy Wong. Go ahead, Tammy.
Tissue box, please.
Tammy, you're muted. Tammy, you are muted. Tammy, are you there? I have no sound on Tammy. I don't know if it's her or us. I'm gonna, okay, Tammy, we aren't hearing you. I'm gonna call the next person and come back. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with her. I have Justin Hamilton Hole. Go ahead, Justin. Did you ask her to unmute? I did. She's unmuted. We're not, Justin is mute. Oh, Justin's unmuted. Check your, right there, click on that. Go to audio settings. It's the right, we're on the right thing. We're on the right we're on the right audio.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead and close that box.
Okay, David. Hold tight, please, our Zoom participants. We're not getting the sound on them. Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I got it. I got it. She had just marked one and I put her in the 15. So I have hers. That's the lady who just spoke. I got her.
Please bear with us. We have staff who are working on making sure we can get that connection.
What's going on? Try Justin again? Okay. Justin, if you could say something. Think. Tammy, could you try saying something? I'm not getting anything from Justin, could you try again, but you are muted. If you could unmute.
Hello?
Oh, Tammy. We got Tammy. Yay!
Oh, thank you, Teresa. I had tried to dial in on phone. I wasn't sure what was happening.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Tammy. We're ready for your comments.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My comment for now is just going to be at one of the items about, I keep seeing the in-person and remote teleconferencing being renewed continuously. And I wanted to comment, I mean, aside from a few glitches, how convenient it is that I find that we can now participate by phone or via Zoom. And I hope that when I see this being renewed constantly, I hope it's just a procedural item and that this method of participating in our meetings is meant to be permanent and that it's just not a temporary thing as it would indicate when you keep renewing it through item number 7. So that is my public comment for now and on this non-agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Next speaker.
Justin, go ahead.
Good evening. I am Justin.
Good evening. Go ahead.
I want to say thank you for our city police in our PCG, we had a major phone line down like last a couple of days ago. I wanted to shout out our city police and then our city water department. And the other thing is we had flooding and I was too much to get the leap out of drain for the water. And I wanted to shout out thank you so much for saving our city and all that you like to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have any other speakers for non-agenda items on Zoom? Please raise your hand.
Anyone in the audience for items not on the agenda?
I see no hands raised.
Very good. Thank you. I would offer for council a couple of thoughts here. I think maybe given the number of folks we have here regarding Home Key and city's involvement in that perhaps some sort of a community meeting on that matter might be very helpful to be more informed and to express our concerns. Certainly inviting our colleagues in Vallejo as well to attend. We can engage in the meeting that encompasses both sides of this issue for the betterment of both.
Second that motion. If it's a motion, I would second that. I think we do need to have a little more dialogue about what's going on and what are the options and what are the safeguards.
Right.
So I
Get
think
an
a
idea,
public
better
meeting
idea
would be
about
good.
plans going forward with that, yes. Okay, that's a motion. Is there a second to that?
Are we have a motion?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the motion. Who made the motion?
You made the motion.
I was making a suggestion. I'll frame that in the way of a motion. I make a motion.
Can I
that
make a
we
motion?
organize a town meeting
will
on the Home Key project adjacent to American Canyon.
I'll second that then.
Very good. Thank you. Roll call, please.
You guys are moving faster than me. Mark tells it. Town meeting. Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Council. Also, given the length of the agenda and those in attendance, show of hands, how many are interested in the Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO representative? Okay, so I think we'll probably have a great deal of comment on that. I would suggest that we move that item up to right after our public comment section, so we can take that up next.
So moved. I'll second that.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Yes. And,
Roll call, please.
yes. Councilmember Abadamos? Yes. Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes, thank you. We'll now move on to business item 15, local agency formation.
Can we do the consent agenda really quick? Do we do the consent?
Well, I suggested we move it up right there where we are now before agenda changes, but if council wants to change that and do consent.
I just thought consent would be really quick.
You would think, but I wanted to pull number 11, the Pro Housing Designation Program application. So maybe we should do LAFCO because consent may not be as easy as you think.
Thanks,
That.
Mark.
Sorry.
Thank you for additional information. Okay. Sorry. So, as I was saying, Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO representative. I'd like to make personal comment first into this, and with the work-home life suggestion and how we appoint committee members. I would apologize myself personally if that was taken, I think, in a way that I did not intend, from the feedback I'm getting. What we try to do with committee appointments is, first, is there an interest in doing it? Okay. Do you have a schedule issue that you need to work with if you're working? How can we accommodate that? For example, Vice Mayor Washington joined this council when it was all on Zoom. So we just did everything Zoom. Well, now he's got to go back to work full-time. So how do we accommodate that? Well, then that, in my place, I said, okay, look, Councilmember Joseph and I are both retired. He has his personal schedule in his life, so do I have mine. Certainly I enjoy my time away from all this, as well as I enjoy doing it. So I offered to pick up his Hyman Action Committee, which Councilmember Joseph also serves on. So that's the intent of that discussion. How can we accommodate you in your home life and the council requirements that we get all these appointments done and we participate in them? That was my intent. If it was taken in a different way than I intended, then I do apologize for that. Mine is to work collaboratively with my council members in the interest of American Canyon. Moving into it, Local Agency Information Commission representative. One moment, please. I'd like to point out in this discussion on it that we moved it to January 17th because it was supposed to come up on the 20th, and we didn't have 3 votes. And as the vote's going around, now Vice Mayor Washington had some concerns. You know, he was kind of taken aback by, he wasn't expecting this. And you said you needed to talk to some people. Well, in the interest of having a fully informed council, I voted with them. And that way allowed us to delay it to this time here so that we could all be more informed in how to move forward on this issue. Is council ready to take this up? Okay, so that's my preamble into going into it. I think we all had an opportunity to do whatever information and resource and research we needed to be able to make a decision on this matter. With that, I have Vice Mayor Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, before I even get into my statement of what I want to say, I want to personally apologize to you, Miriam. Not only are you my colleague, you're my friend, and by no means should any woman have to feel the way you felt. So I apologize on behalf of anything I may have done or said that would have contributed to that. So I apologize. I have 4 daughters. I know how important it is for them to be successful. My wife the same way, and no woman should have to go through that, and I apologize. My intent that evening was to gather information, and I've done that. I've spoken to over 85 people in our community, including 2 prior council members who were part of LAFCO. I've met with the LAFCO CEO, Brendan Freeman. He was more than welcome to come in a blizzard to come meet to talk with me about the pros and the cons of what LAFCO offers. So being the newest person on council was the only reason why I wanted to put a pause on it, so I could understand. The process was also new to me. It's only the 2nd time I was involved in commission's changes. I also learned that Mr. prior City Council member Ken Leary was an original appointed person, and then you took. So I learned a lot. So I apologize for that, but mostly to you, because you are my friend, and that's my statement for the night.
Okay. Other council members want to weigh in? Comment?
Well,
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes. My comment is that just as the mayor mentioned, that we do try to accommodate our council members. And so Vice Mayor Washington had some issues, so we stepped up. Using that same criterion, there was no issue coming from Councilmember Abu Damas, which is why I supported leaving her where she wanted to be. Historically, the only time we make changes is when somebody, frankly, wants to basically step off and trade with something else. That in this case, the incumbent didn't want to move, And that was the reason why I supported her efforts to stay where she's at. I think she's doing a good job. I haven't heard anything contrary to that. And that's why I acted the way I did, which was to make a motion to leave her on LAFCO. And I'm happy to make that motion again tonight. I'm sorry that I didn't take more offense at the time, but I think by the same token, it's probably because I figured there's no reason to remove her. Therefore, I made the motion and acted by my vote rather than by any other comment. I apologize for how big this has become, because the reality is it should have been kind of a no-brainer. It should have been, this is how we handle the assignments. Sorry it went sideways. I feel a little defensive only because I want to make sure that everybody understands I supported leaving her on the position because that's what she wanted and that's how we've acted in the past. So those are my comments.
Very good. Councilmember Oro?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the floor. And, I was going to wait until public comment on this, and maybe I could probably pause a little of the feelings that I get from out there for right now. But there's a lot of discussion out there that is not related to actually the LAFCO employment. And I've responded to as many emails as possible today, and I think several of the speakers today I responded to late this afternoon, right before this meeting, and you'll see it. But I thought it'd be a good idea to read a little bit of how I responded to most of you. So, first of all, there's several issues here that are way beyond the LAFCO employment. Measure J was brought up. This work-life balance thing was brought up. And I wanted to address those. And so this is what I've been saying to constituents who wrote back on who put in public comment online. And I try to get as many to you as possible, but here it is. First of all, I will honor the no vote on Measure J as decided by the will of the people. There was accusations about that, of this being a coordinated event of some sort or some sort of ploy. If it was poorly executed. So I'm looking forward to the council's decision tonight on the appointment to LAFCO. The annual committee assignments is a natural time to request to be on LAFCO. The LAFCO appointment currently held by Councilmember Abadamos, as stated earlier, was vacated by Councilmember Leary after his retirement from the City Council, and it expires on May 1st. She's finishing the remainder of the former Councilmember Leary's 4-year regular term. Considering all the changes that LAFCO has experienced at the county level, 2 supervisors are leaving, and the AC seat is going to be an alternate. I thought it was a good time to make that request. I had considered this position before and was hoping for a discussion about it. There's background here that I sent to those about how these appointments are done. But it went sideways. And I wasn't expecting this at all. So here's an understanding. As a father of 2 daughters and a champion of women's causes, I take any insinuation that this was about Miriam's work-life balance and that she couldn't do this job very seriously, and I'm actually offended that people have reached out to me and stated that I was in that manner. But that said, I see where my silence can be taken the wrong way. Frankly, that evening I was shocked and stunned. We don't normally comment on public comments directly, but for me, stunned is probably the best one. I wasn't expecting it. If there is an apology, it is that I didn't act as an advocate to nip those unfortunate comments in the bud that evening. Unfortunately, accusations were made, and now we have this situation that has caused an unnecessary stir in the community. The reality is, this is probably, most of you, this is the first time you've heard of LAFCO and the council appointments. It's usually a routine event. And I was hoping to have more of a discussion around that. And so tonight, I will apologize for not nipping it in the bud and getting it to this point. And again, and I hope you understand that, is, my lack of reaction was stunted more than anything. So that's what I have to say about it. I'm still interested in the LAFCO position, and if you want to have the debates and the merits of that, I'm willing to have that discussion and go from there.
Good, thank you. Any other comment from council? I'd like to, likewise for myself personally, before we take public comment, come back for our deliberation. Mr. Holly, you got your...
Just before we get to public comment, Mayor wanted to do some level setting around LAFCO and the appointment and the proceedings from December 20th. Before we get to public comment, please.
Okay, I'll come to you next. With regard to women in the workforce, I'm an RN. I'm a registered nurse. 97% of my colleagues when I started in the 1970s were women. It's still a very high number. And I work with women in the workforce. I served on the Affirmative Action Committee for the Napa State Hospital, dealing with work equity issues, discrimination. We reported directly to the director in Sacramento. It was that close a time, and there were many issues that we had to raise. Mine is, as I mentioned, with committee appointments. I have a lot of women with children at home when they have needs, and I'm a manager of a program where I have 200 employees supervised. A lot of it was finding about ways to assure them for their concerns for their family, their needs in terms of child care. Myself at the time, I worked evenings and nights, and well, it's called Mr. Mom in the morning. My wife worked day shift. So I'm aware of those needs, and certainly try to do what I can to accommodate it, and had many discussions with it. I'll be very frank, sometimes it was a little bit off the policy, but it worked. You need a little ease here because you need to go pick up kids at childcare or drop them off. Okay, well, I got somebody who's going to cover for you for your 30 minutes. You need to take care of that. Hospital would never engage in a policy around that, but I broke the rules to the benefit of the employees. Sometimes that needs to happen. I'm very aware of what family needs are for employees and staff wherever that situation is. And did a lot with leadership development as well. I was a manager supervisor, and my replacements were all women nurses who are in the career path, and education cut them some slack in terms of schedule time off, go to classes. Okay, how much vacation time you got? Let's make this happen for you. And they both replaced me when I retired successfully. So that's my comment on that. Okay, are we ready for public comment? Public comment is open on this matter.
Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hawley.
Thank you, Mayor. First, also, I'd like to take the opportunity to apologize to the community. It's clear my remarks in the staff report from December 20th struck a chord, and it was not my intention, but it's clear they were interpreted in a way that I did not intend. And I apologize for that. I apologize for the angst that it caused many of you. I want to also apologize to Councilmembers Oro and Councilmember Abudamos. The language used in the staff report regarding commitments and child rearing and potential issues have led to issues and accusations of gender discrimination, et cetera, and nothing really can be further from the truth. I really want to highlight the fact that really am a supporter of all genders and child rearing and parents, and I want to leave no one with any misconceptions about that. As a father of 2 school-age children myself, who proudly raises his children, and the husband of a working mother who proudly supports her career as well, I want to publicly reaffirm my commitment to working parents of all genders in American Canyon. The point of the conversation that was brought on December 20th was to lean into a difficult conversation. I've found that leaning into rather than hiding from difficult conversations is the way that we get answers. This council does all of its business in public. We don't have the ability in private to work out all these issues necessarily. So wanted to lean into the issue, and we know that there can be conflicts at times between personal obligations, work obligations. As a staff person, I feel it. I know our staff feels it at times, and we know the council feels it at times. And rather than run from that difficulty, we're trying to lean into that difficult conversation. I also want to specifically apologize to Councilmember Abadamos. Despite all the progress that's been made related to gender equity, I know that women face an unfair burden balancing their work and home obligations. I'm sorry if my remarks initially offended you as well. I think my track record as a supporter of working women stands on its own. And there are at least 4 women here in the audience tonight whom I've promoted and hired and supported. They have school-age children, the same as my own. And I know if asked, they would confirm the exact same thing. It's not the city's intention nor the intention of myself to make any assumptions about a council member's level of commitment based on whether they are a parent or not. And I do regret that this conversation has contributed to this misperception. I want to assure you that's far from our true stance. I'm grateful for this diverse and engaged community, and I'm grateful that you've shared your perspectives and provided this input back to me and to the council and made your feelings known. I wanted to spend a little bit of time, if the council would like, to explain a little bit about LAFCO, because as Councilmember Oro noted, many people in the audience may not know much about LAFCO. And if the council's interested, I can give a little bit of background on LAFCO in this particular appointment. So LAFCO is a pretty unique entity. It's actually an agent or an agency of the state of California, but it's a local variation of that. There are actually 8 members on LAFCO. That's kind of an unusual number for voting purposes, but how it works is there are 5 voting members, and then there are 3 participating members, but they're non-voting. They're known as alternates. And the way that those meetings actually work is all 8 members actually participate in the meeting. They listen to comment, they ask questions of consultants, they read staff reports, and so on and so forth. The only thing that the non-voting members don't do is vote or make motions or that kind of thing. The 8 members of the commission are a unique process and a unique representation. All 3 of the Up Valley jurisdictions, Yountville, St. Helena, and Calistoga, have 1 member from those bodies that sits as a permanent full-time voting member on LAFCO. The County Board of Supervisors themselves have 3 members of the commission. 2 of those are full-time voting members, and 1 of them is an alternate member. The public has 2 positions on LAFCO. 1 is a voting member and 1 is an alternate member. And every 4 years, the alternating and the voting members switch. The City of Napa and the City of American Canyon also have 2 positions, 1 for each, and every 4 years, those positions between alternating and voting also switch. So there's an alternating process. Interestingly, the first LAFCO meeting that I went to was kind of a confusing process, and one of the voting members left the meeting, and the alternate stepped up right during the middle of the meeting and started voting for the first time. And I was very confused to see that in action, but it actually happens where the alternate will step up and take the place of a primary member, even during a meeting, or especially if they're not there. So it's a very sort of fluid situation that can occur at LAFCO. Members of LAFCO are appointed. 6 of the members of LAFCO are appointed by the City Select Committee. That committee is made up of the 5 mayors in all of the jurisdictions. Those mayors make the appointments, which is why the item tonight is a recommendation to the City Select Committee. And I'll get into a little moment here in a little moment as to why that's important. But suffice it to say, there is another body, the City Select Committee, who makes that appointment. The public members are actually appointed by LAFCO itself. Another somewhat unique process. The City Select Committee, I don't believe, has scheduled their next meeting. They meet on an ad hoc basis, but it's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. When a member sits on LAFCO, they are not representing the interests of the jurisdiction they come from. So Councilmember Abadamos, for example, when she goes to LAFCO, does not put on her quote-unquote American Canyon hat and advocate for American Canyon interests. Instead, they are bound by LAFCO law to implement LAFCO policy regardless, or potentially at times in the face of what may be American Canyon interests. And that also makes it a very unique body. We're fortunate here in American Canyon to have a LAFCO expert in our midst. Our city attorney here was part of a statewide commission in the early 2000s who literally wrote the book on the modern era of LAFCO and the manuals and everything else. So we have quite a bit of experience in American Canyon with LAFCO from annexations and with the experiences here. One of the important other distinctions to make about LAFCO is it's not related to land use. What I mean by that is LAFCO does not decide what our general plan is. LAFCO does not decide what land uses go where. LAFCO doesn't decide anything related to land use. LAFCO is only related to the efficient provision of municipal services. They decide who will provide water, sewer, public safety services, and where, which agencies will do that. They have that power. It was actually the Napa County LAFCO who allowed the city of American Canyon to incorporate. It took approval of the LAFCO first to allow American Canyon to incorporate, and that, again, was an initiative of the voters. But without LAFCO's approval, that could never have happened. And so LAFCO is a very powerful body, and they make a lot of powerful decisions, none of which are related to land use. It's only about the provision of municipal services. Land use measures, and Measure J that was referenced earlier was a land use measure. Land use measures are decided by the city council, and they only apply to those areas, at least within our boundary for zoning, and we can pre-zone outside boundaries, but that's informational. My point in all that is Measure J and LAFCO will never intersect. There's never a time where LAFCO would approve any of the issues that were at large or in the subject of Measure J. There are companion issues that go along with land use and the provision of municipal services, but they don't cross paths. Nobody on LAFCO, whatever, or the LAFCO Commission would never vote to approve anything that was in Measure J. So I think that's important too for people to kind of have that background. It's a pretty complicated process and pretty complicated commission. If the council had any other questions about LAFCO or the specifics of it, I'd be happy to answer them.
Question from council?
No, I had a long class on that as well, so I'm good.
Good.
Right. Any council comment further? Well, you know, we probably have a number of people that like to speak on this. And as you move forward now with public comment, please come to the podium to comment on this matter. Or do you have cards there?
Lynn Baker.
Good.
Nope. Lynn Baker, she, it was signed up online, so maybe they didn't come, but they said they were coming. Jojo Maglalang. Maglalang. Thank you.
Buddy.
Honorable Mayor and council members, many of us concerns about Council Member Mariam Abu-Damus' integrity and competency to represent the city in general to be on LAFCO. She breached her agreement with the council members by taking a public position opposing Measure J and made comments indicating a failure to understand requirements needed to be on LAFCO. We supported Measure J. Together with many, we requested support from different city council members. We believe they were supportive, but they indicated that was an agreement between all council members not to take a public position, so they declined to take a public position, keeping faith with the previous agreement. Council Member Abu-Damus' decision to breach this agreement shows a clear lack of integrity, and we will never know, most unfortunately, if other council members had supported it publicly, whether or not it would have passed. Were the voters denied a fair election? A very important question that never needed to be asked. There's a serious question also as to what motivated her to do so. What incentive promises to the future support of the future elected offices did she get up from the Up Valley interest or others? She's not seems to inform the city have and do amend in general plans on adjacent county lands that are AW. Her assertion of Measure J regarding this matter was preceded something that a LAPCO commission should know is not true.
Sir, your time.
As an example, in the last months, there are many, maybe year or city council in Napa has in fact amended the general plan in regard to AW county lands and designated them to residential with intent of annexing
Sir,
the
you
land.
need to wrap up now, please. Thank you.
Censure me in your wisdom and awaken your senses that you be a better judge. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Gary Margadant.
Well, good evening to the council and other members, and the mayor, and to the lovely audience who's here today. It's really pleasant to see all of you come down and discuss with your government officials as to what is on your mind, and I really do appreciate that. And a bit of my comment is that I'm really, really happy to see that families are being discussed down here, and I think that they're very, very important to the community as a whole. You know, you have to do the education, you have to do familiarity. I was surprised and very pleased to see this young gentleman come up and speak about the park and what he needed, you know, to really be an active citizen of this community. So I'm really, really pleased to be here and to listen to, you know, everybody's opinion. And thank you very much. I am quite enjoying it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Joy Barnes.
Hello to you all. I'm with AAUW, American Association of University Women. I'm the chairwoman of public policy, and I'm here instead of Carolyn Stewart, who wrote a lovely letter to all of you guys. And she not only just put it on email, she drove it down here and put it in everybody's box. We're here in support of Miriam also. We're here in support for gender equity for women and girls. All of you guys have said that you know women and girls, and you appreciate them, and you encourage them. Well, I'd like to make a suggestion. This young guy, he's young because I'm older than he is, indicated that at LAFCO, somebody will step up in somebody else's place if they move. That's what we want you all to do, step up. On the last meeting, when the comments were made about her staying home with the children, women in here tell me that's what you think you ought to do. There's got to be a time where you don't just sit there and do nothing. You have to step up. This is the time, the place, the need to step up. We don't just support Miriam, we support all people. It's you. It's me. Have you endured gender equality or inequality? Every woman in here has, don't deny it. But you've got to do more than just say, I'm sorry. Did that make you feel better? It didn't make me feel better. Everything has to be done, so you say to yourself, okay, that was that situation. I didn't do what I should have done. I'm a retired English 9th grade teacher. You mean to tell me that I wouldn't stand up for 9th grade kids? You better believe it. You have to stand up. Stand up for everybody. You see it, you talk it. You see it, you don't talk about it, you've just made it worse. This is what we all have to do. This is what you're telling your children. This is what you're teaching your children. You look out for each other. We're looking out for her. We're looking out for every single one of you guys. But you have to do it on your own. Nobody can tell you that it's going to be all right. Life sucks sometimes. And you have to say to yourself, okay, I may be wrong. I may not be doing it the right way, but I know what I should do, and I'm going to do it. American Association of University Women have 170,000 women across the United States.
Ma'am,
We
you're
have
at time.
200, I know, 200 in Napa Valley, some here in American Canyon. You think we don't talk? You think we don't do something? You better believe it. You shake it, you wrap it, you talk about it. You don't say to yourself, oh, well,
Thank you for your
she'll
comments.
understand. She won't. Stand up. Do the right thing.
Thank you for your comment.
Yvonne Baginski.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. It's good to be here. As you know, I was one of the principals against Measure J, and I did hear and listen to some of the statements that were made at the December 20th meeting, and I also was sickened by what I heard. And I saw David Gilbreth in the audience, and David Gilbreth was the investor on Measure J, and he was here at that meeting. And he came and sat directly behind the two public members who came up and spoke and talked with them before they came up. And I also know, Mr. Oro, that you accepted a campaign contribution from Mr. Gilbreth of a $998. And I know you probably returned it. Somebody had told me you had returned it. But my question is, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that no one's really talking about. And the thing with Measure J is the American Canyon voters did reject Measure J. And Mr. Gilbreth spent $220,000 to make sure that his campaign got as much visibility as possible. And he gave $7,000 to the Phil-Am Association to do a big party in Shenandoah Park. So there's a lot of stuff we're not talking about at this meeting. And LAFCO, before Mr. Gilbreth went and put that initiative on the ballot, LAFCO turned down his request to increase the sphere of influence of American Canyon 5-0. They voted no. That's when he made the step to go and put it on the ballot. So there's a little more history here with LAFCO than what we're talking about as well. I just want to state that watching how one city council member retaliates against another, and she was blindsided. This was not a normal set aside, and to hear everybody backpedaling and saying, well, we didn't intend, we're sorry, everything's fine. We can see it for ourselves, and we all watched it, and we were horrified because of the silence, because of the comments that were made. I'm a single mom, I raised 3 kids, I started a nonprofit, I ran a business, and if someone would have said to me, you can't do this, I would have said, please, just give me the money. I'd be happy to sit around and do nothing all day but raise the kids. We have a responsibility to ourselves, our government, and each other. And I think that to bring out the truth and really talk about the truth is really important. And I totally support Miriam to stay in her LAFCO position. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Eve Kahn.
Good evening. My name is Eve Kahn, and I am a member of Napa LAFCO. And I thank Jason Hawley for his excellent explanation, because most people don't have even a clue what it's all about. At your last council meeting, there was clearly an overtone of concern that Councilwoman Abu-Damas was not able to handle her responsibilities on LAFCO. Yet immediately after that discussion, she gave a report of the 3-day leadership conference she attended in Monterey. How ironic. No one raised concern that she was not qualified, or her role as a mother interfered with her responsibilities and accountabilities to this council, or not qualified for any and all other appointments she may have had. So why LAFCO? That's the unanswered question. It appeared it was retribution for her opposition to Measure J. But you made a smart and reasoned decision to recommend her to LAFCO, and honestly, it's in your best interest to retain her. From my personal observation, she has represented your city with the skills, knowledge, and professionalism of an attorney. She has quickly climbed the ladder of competence and effectiveness. And for those who don't know, and we now learned a lot more, but LAFCO has a state agency with its own set of laws, rules, and procedures. And it does take time to come up to speed. It's why you see very little turnover. So it was no surprise to me when Ken Leary left the council and he had been on LAFCO, he immediately applied for the public member, and he got unanimous approval. So yes, I got bumped to alternate. But he was a wonderful LAFCO member, so I wasn't really that upset. I want to give a shout out to Fran Lemos, because she continues to be a well-respected historian and leader in American Canyon. She no doubt remembers, maybe 50, 60 years ago when she was Miriam's age, that mothers with young children would be discriminated. A woman's work is in the home. That was the phrase at the time. Fran is a very smart woman, and I believe she knows that what she had got up to say actually prohibited current laws on discrimination. I noticed David Gilbreth whispered in her ear before she got up to the podium. So I'm not sure if those were his words or hers. But I respect Fran Lemos, and I don't want her reputation to be tarnished. If Mr. Gilbreth has something to say, have him come up to the podium himself. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Karina Cervente.
Hello again. So today I come to you as a mother, full-time worker, and community volunteer. Being a parent has never been an issue at my work. My duties as a commissioner for 9 years in our city, or my hundreds of hours volunteering for our community. I brought my son today so he can get a hard and bitter lesson on civic responsibility. There's a saying in comedy, it's all about the delivery. And I feel this saying really resonates on the way the city manager delivered his introduction to the business item number 9 on the December 20th, 2022 meeting. After the HR director's presentation on December 20th, we were fed insight into the city's hiring techniques. This presentation was quickly followed up by an extremely questionable statement on the record by our city manager, Jason Hawley. And I quote, "For council members who may be retired or may not have children in the home and are going to have less of those kinds of responsibilities to add on to their city council plate. But for council members who have children in the home and are working full-time, having a full plate of council meetings, plus all of the other more ancillary kinds of appointments may be a real challenge," end quote. This is a blatant HR double standard. Male council members are never questioned about their family commitments. The male council members sat there and didn't say anything about these comments. You can apologize now. Your apology is accepted, I assume, but you still did not do anything, did not say anything. It's 2023. We're in the United States of America, in California, And I cannot believe we have to hear sexist comments like the ones I heard on December 20th. I'm an immigrant. I immigrated here when I was 18 years old. I cannot believe if I hear these comments in my country, Guatemala, I said, yeah, you know, that's a normal thing to hear there, but not here. The fact there are only female counsel is a working mother doesn't mean she's unable to do her duties. Why is this an issue? Here's a picture of Congressman Gomez. I bet he's not being told he cannot do his duties because he's a new parent. He's there at the crazy voting day or days with the baby, but he's not. I bet you none of these questions came up. Let Council Member Abu Damas skip her LAFCO appointment. She's doing an excellent job. Vote for her. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Sylvia Regaldo Zekloid.
Hi, it's actually Regalado and Zaclod. My husband will appreciate the Zaclod part. He's taking care of the kids right now, so I can be present here with you today. I will not restate what some of my friends in the community members have already stated. I will say this. There was interest on behalf of Council Member Abu Damas to retain her position on that committee, LAFCO committee. In my correspondence to you, I did not address LAFCO, but I do appreciate, Mr. Hawley, the quick cliff notes on that and have learned quite a bit through that. She's interested, and she has been serving well, as we have heard by her colleagues on that same committee. There is no reason to not reappoint her to that position, and I urge you to vote that she be reappointed to that commission and continue to learn and continue to hear and be a participant in advocating for our families and our greater community. In addition to that, what I would like to see is that we continue to do better. As Ms. Cervante said, you didn't do anything. And after the fact is too late because it was a blemish that will be recorded on video. So we need to do better. We need to show that we have grown from all of this. And in addition, I want to thank you because I don't think I've ever seen this city hall as full as it is right now and as many comments on agenda items. And so I want to urge the citizens also of American Canyon to continue to be involved, whether it be from home via Zoom or whether it be here present, talking about the things that are important to us as a community to build our community. Let's do better. Let's be involved and let's keep voicing what it is that we need for our children, for our common man and women, and for our families, because that is what American Canyon is really known for, is the great families and the great schools and the great communities. Sorry, Lorenzo, about the park. I think they're gonna work on it in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. But that is where we should be focused and not taking up so much time on these type of things. So I thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for your apologies that you extended. But from now on, when things like that pop up, we need to shut it down, and we need to shut it down then. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. There's certainly some take home from that. We'll learn from this. Engage.
Shanda Newmere.
Hold it against you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. I feel that Mary Nambadamas should be reappointed to the representative to LAFCO. Precedent has always been to allow the incumbent member remain in the position if they choose. She clearly stated more than once, I'm going to reiterate that, more than once in the December meeting, that she wishes to remain in the position. The surprise announcement by Council Member Oro,
Please continue, we
It's-
understand.
No, it's good, but you can see what this has done to the community. It's, as Vice Mayor Washington said, an awkwardness. And those in the room felt it. Those at home felt it. And I immediately said, there's something wrong. And that is still echoing in my head, wrong. I expect more from my leaders. And the irony of all this is that this section followed an HR presentation on DEI, which, for those of you who don't know, diversity, equity, inclusion. Unbelievable that public comments were allowed to be made by citizens to the effect that because she has a child, suggests the reason she give up this position. Once again, she said more than once, I want this position. I want to stay in this position. That added to the awkwardness. Not one person in this room, male or female, said, these comments are inappropriate. This was an embarrassing moment for this city. Very embarrassing. As a state of California employee, we go through DEI training every year. And in that training, there is a section on speaking up when something inappropriate is stated. We need a refresher, I think, Mr. Hawley. Perhaps for the city employees, a refresher. When you see something or you hear something inappropriate, you say something. And I'm saying, Councilmember Abadamas, as a child, as a wife, an attorney, a council member, a committee member, a woman, which means a multitasker, she should remain on this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jeanette Goyataj. Sorry, I'm probably butchering that.
It's Goya. I'll just put this up so people can see. Anyway, my name is Jeanette Goyette, and I've lived in American Canyon for 34 so years. And I love American Canyon. I just want to be a voice and support Miriam, just to continue serving on the LAFCO committee. And I did not know about LAFCO until all this was happening. And thank you, Mr. Hawley, for your explanation also. Been looking it up. But I listened in on I was part of the committee, the meeting on the 20th, and listened in the rest of it. I understand Mr. Oro wants to be on LAFCO, but I still support Miriam to stay on since she wants to be on, like Shonda just said. I didn't hear any other reasonable comments why she should be taken off. I don't know. I know she voted no on Jay, and so did I. I just hope it wasn't retaliation on anybody's part. Just asking the council members to please vote, keep her on, and I don't have anything more to add. I think some of the speakers were amazing, and I know everybody's here for a good reason. And thank you all for coming. I really, this is amazing.
Thank you.
Chris James.
Yeah, Chris James, longtime American Canyon resident. I can say that now, so I think I'm going into my 12th year. I'm pleased to see you both look up at the end. You've been looking down your papers a lot when these these people have been talking. So I'm glad you're actually looking up at me right now. I was a little disappointed that both of you had your heads down at the beginning of a lot of these conversations. I don't know if the rest of you noticed that. Anyway, so there's two issues going on here, right? There's the LAFCO and there's the discrimination comments that were made last week, or last month. For LAFCO, I support Miriam Amadamas retaining a position. One of the arguments that Mr. Oro has put out that there's changes afoot in LAFCO. Let's just throw everyone's leaving, people are being replaced. Let's just replace our member. Well, that doesn't make sense, right? If we've got an experienced member that's learned a lot, it stands us in good stead to hold that person there. Why have all new people on that board? Okay, so that's no one's mentioned that. We have a very experienced person there that's learned the ropes, and we need to leverage that for the benefit of the city. Okay. So I was ashamed and embarrassed when I saw that meeting last month, like all of us. I could repeat everything that was said. I think Mr. Hawley has a big part in that, how he queued it up. I agree that about the training, one of the ladies just said about the training. I think all you need to go on the training as well. Okay, maybe you do it through your corporations or you've done it in the past where you need a refresher. Okay, and tonight I want you to all to commit to doing that. Okay, right? I want you publicly to say that. Otherwise, I would encourage you all to speak to them about that. Okay, all of us need to keep on writing them, because just saying sorry after the fact, you all had an opportunity that night to say something. I appreciate that Pierre, Mr. Washington, stopped the conversation and said, look, time out, I need to go off and research this. That was for LAFCO, but you didn't have to research what was said that night. If someone said that turn the lights on me. If someone that said that to one of your daughters or your wife, you would have stood up. I think you would have stood up and actually defended them. I know I would have, okay? And same with Mr. Oro, he's used the same argument. He says, I have daughters, I've done all these things for women, right? But you all had an opportunity that night and you failed. And apologies, and I'm glad that the apology was made, but you need to do more than that. It's walk the talk, okay? So I do support you. I think there is more going on behind the scenes on Measure J. I understand that Mr. Oro, you said you will respect the vote, but I think there's more games to be played in the background, and having someone that was a supporter of Measure J on the side. Same for Mark. Mark accepted the money, and then I think it was may have returned the money. They were at your campaign, your things. So there was more going on in the background, and I just don't want. I want more open discussions. So I support Miriam, and I want everyone.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mayor Garcia, I have no other speaker cards for people in the audience. If anyone else wants to comment.
Raise your hand, Fran Lemos.
Okay. Fran Lemos.
Fran Lemus. Being an old timer here, a lot of these young new people don't realize what us old timers went through to make the city what it is today. And I supported Measure J. I supported it because it's in the sphere of our city. LAFCO, you have to be, I think, 2 or 3 sides next to the city, and that was if any of you been out there to take a drive and look and see where that piece is. Okay, there's a new building. I didn't even know they built that one. It's on the north side, and it's up in the next plot, and then the other side is close to the sewer treatment plant. So I supported Measure J. And I think the city council should have approved it. It should have never went to a vote of the people. According to LAFCO, it fits into their rhetoric. Is that correct, Jason?
I'm not exactly sure what the question is.
Well, if I remember, we a piece of land, maybe Bill could explain it, it has to be close to another piece, so it can't be an island out here.
That's correct.
Yeah, now maybe Bill can understand it better than I, but that's the way I understood LAFCO. So I supported Measure J. They were willing to work on Green Island Road, which needs a little bit of upkeep, a lot of the upkeep. And whenever a developer develops, the city makes them do something. They put in parks. You know, the city of American Canyon has lots of parks. And it's only because when they develop something, they make them contribute to the city. And I think that's why this city is so good the way it is today, because we have lots of parks. We have people on the council that really appreciate what the city has been and done. And so anyway, that was why I supported Measure J. And I think it was a good thing for the city to be there. It wasn't, they would never develop it close to the wetlands. So anyway, I still supported it. So anyway, I want to say if I offended you, Miriam, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say, I have 4 children. I know how it is. Yes, and I have new grandbabies, and I know how it is. It's hard to work when you have a family. And that has nothing to do with you being appointed to LAFCO. I was just supportive of Measure J. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in attendance wish to speak to the council on this matter?
Beth Marcus.
Yes, good evening, Beth Marcus. I'm trying to think how I can formulate this. I think at the last meeting there was a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding. I, for one, apologize if it came across that way. And I think I even said, well, first of all, I think David said that he would like to be on the committee. I thought your term was up in May. I didn't see anything wrong with that. I was under the presumption, which I shouldn't presume, that perhaps you wanted to step down because sometimes you have a lot of different committees that you have to go to. It's a lot of consuming time. And I just thought maybe that was one of the committees you wanted to step down from. But, you know, I was a mother, and I still am a mother. Grandmother and great-grandmother. But when I was working, I was a divorcee and had 3 children. I worked all that time, 40 years. And so I know and I appreciate what you do. So I'm sorry if I offended you in any way. And I know saying I'm sorry doesn't really cut it. I know, Yvonne, I know. I understand what you're saying. And then you made a comment that David was whispering in Fran's ear or whatever. Just because we were friends with David doesn't mean that we were here for that reason, to be honest with you. Anyhow, I apologize if I offended you, and you're a wonderful city council member.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else in attendance want to comment?
Okay, I have online, I have Tammy Wong.
Oh, good.
Tammy, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening. We can hear you.
Thank you. There are 2 separate items that I want to comment on at this time. One, I support Councilmember Abu Damos in her request to remain on LAFCO. She is the most qualified council member, and as has been stated, she can leverage the experience she has already gained in completing a partial term if she stays on LAFCO. There's no valid reason to replace her at this time. We should follow the precedent of leaving her on the committee as she remains. My second point, gender bias has no place in American Canyon, and especially at a city council meeting. At the December 20th meeting, all the men on the city council and our city manager remained in solidarity, in deafening silence, while the sole woman on the city council faced gender discrimination. I've heard all of our male council members and city manager Hawley now speak about this. But this is 2 weeks later, and it doesn't erase the deafening silence that we all watched in shock and disbelief. I can believe that, maybe it was a clumsy introduction, an unfortunate collusion of circumstances, but however it happened, it did, and it should have been stopped at that moment. If our elected leaders of the city are not prepared to own responsibility for confronting discrimination when it happens at city council meetings, not 2 weeks later, we need you to do it at the moment. If you are not adept at doing that, you need to go to training, you need to do workshops, you need to commit to doing that. Not just hollow words, we're sorry. Show the women in your city that you are prepared to represent us with our best interests in mind and take this matter seriously and do something about it. Just don't give us words 2 weeks later. I look forward to your responses about training and how you intend to become more adept at recognizing these situations and being prepared to speak up about them as they happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I have no hands raised.
Okay.
Oh, wait, sorry. We had a late entry here. I have Karen Fritz. Karen, go ahead.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, great. I would just like to piggyback on just about everybody's comments that were made in favor of Miriam, and the deafening silence that came across the room on December 20th was just unbelievable. Anyway, Miriam, I think you are the best man for the job and woman, and I don't think anything can stand in your way of doing the best job of anyone in that position. Hopefully you will be assigned to the LAFCO committee and you'll be able to handle it with ease. Thank you and continue the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Because then we're getting ready to close public comment on this matter. Seeing none, hearing none, public comment is now closed. We'll return to council for further discussion before we enter into our process on a vote. Councilmember Oro.
Yeah, it was great to hear from everybody in the community about this whole thing. And I think we've said enough behind the dais today, probably not enough a couple of weeks ago. And all of us council members here are interested in the greater good for the community. This is an example of where it was probably poorly executed in a lot of ways. And I think you've heard enough apologizing for that. Just want to caution, though, that, we're ascribing words and intentions to the council and staff that have been somewhat weaponized, and hopefully you hear from us that it's weaponized into a social issue, which is not our intent in any way. It was really just an appointment of the LAFCO council. So I personally take this seriously, the passive and the direct accusations of the community. I don't want my desire to serve in the city's greater capacity or to be aligned those with malicious viewpoints. So I withdraw my current interest in the LAFCO appointment and nominate Councilmember Abu Damos to serve on the LAFCO committee.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any other comment from council? I have my comments to make as well.
I have a couple of comments I would like to make, Mr. Mayor.
Please make them. Go ahead.
First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for your support tonight. Some of you saw my eyes watering. Those are tears of love. I felt so much love tonight, and I'm still feeling it now, so thank you. I always say, you can ask Councilmember Washington, I always say I love American Canyon, and I genuinely mean it. And this is exactly why, right? We show up when it matters. American Canyon, we show up. So thank you. There were a couple of accusations made against me, one that I breached an agreement, and two that I was swayed by Up Valley interests. That makes me feel the need to say that I am the only council member at this dais who didn't move here. I grew up here. What up, Valley Interest? This is American Canyon. Nothing else matters, right? I grew up here. So we can talk offline if you'd like, Jojo, but I definitely was not swayed by Up Valley Interest. Nobody in this room has asked me why. I'm sorry, you had your public comment.
Public comment is closed, sir.
You're one of the signers on the letter. I saw your signature. But you had your public comment. It's my time to speak, so thank you. And like I said, we can talk offline, but I was not swayed by Up Valley Interest, and even the insinuation of that is offensive to me. I do not get paid to be on the council. I started volunteering in this city when I was 13 years old. Can you say that? Before you accuse me of being swayed by Up Valley Interest, can you say that? Number one. Number two, I didn't breach any agreement. This council as a body, the American Canyon City Council, took a no position. Mariam Abudamis, as the individual who currently held the title of vice mayor, took a position on LAFCO. I apologize if the rest of the council, who you say supported Measure J, decided that they didn't want to put their name out there. It's not because of a breach of a contract. I conferred with my city attorney before I made that decision. So you can, if, Mr. Ross, if you'd like to speak on that, please go ahead. But I did not breach an agreement. I'm an attorney, I wouldn't do that.
I would respond saying that I made it clear to all members of council that they don't give up their First Amendment rights with respect to anything that comes before the council, whether it's in an election, either for individuals running for office or for ballot measures. That's different from a position as a council member. There are two separate standards. That was the advice.
Thank you. So I also wanted to acknowledge my colleagues' apologies. They are accepted. I do appreciate them. I also wanted to acknowledge that City Manager Holly did let me yell at him a couple of times over this. I was very frustrated, and this was a one-off for him. He has never made me feel discriminated against, and he has been very supportive of the employees here as far as I know. So I just wanted to make that clear. I don't know what was up with those comments that night, and I told him. I called him and I said, Jason, I feel like this was a conspiracy against me and you were a part of it. Did I not? I did. So I wanted to thank you guys for your apologies, but I also feel like the loneliness I felt that night, I shouldn't have felt, right? And it should not have come to this unnecessary stir for my colleagues to realize that discrimination did occur that night and nobody stood up. Nobody stood up. That's not cool, that's not fair. And the fact that it was called an unnecessary stir is just evidence that somebody didn't realize there was discrimination happening while it was happening against someone who works full-time, someone who's a new mother, and someone who's not only fulfilling her duties as a council member, but also participating on committees and subcommittees in those committees. It was so offensive. And I'm feeling all of the anger that I was feeling the night of December 20th. It should not have come to this, guys. I really appreciate your apologies, but it should not have come to this. I do agree with several people out there that there definitely needs to be some sort of gender-based discrimination training that occurs for the entire council and all of our management staff. So I would like to put that out there. I would love for my colleagues to commit to that tonight in front of everybody on the record. And Jason, I would love for you to organize that. I also wanted to make it clear, I was appointed to LAFCO to fill a vacancy. If there was ever a time that would have been appropriate for something you've always been interested in doing, wouldn't it have been when there was nobody else interested in it? 2 years ago, Councilmember Ken Leary left the council. He did not run for re-election. That made the LAFCO seat empty. Nobody was interested in LAFCO then. So when all of a sudden, there's all of this unnecessary stir over a LAFCO seat because I've always been interested in it, it feels disingenuous, and that's not cool. We're supposed to be colleagues. We're supposed to be working together as a cohesive unit, not trying to call each other out. And if this is not retaliation against Measure J, then I would love to talk to you offline so you can tell me what I'm doing wrong that warranted this behavior. I've put it out there. Councilmember Oro, you and I have talked about this offline before, and I did not want to put you on blast. We met in Crockett for 3 hours to have this conversation. Yes, at the Dead Fish.
I remember.
And I said to you, do you think I'm not smart enough to do my job? Or is it because I'm a woman? And you said no. You said, no, this is just me. I get like this sometimes, and if it happens again, I need you to put me in check. You told me that. Do you remember? So this is me. This is me raw. I'm upset. I'm offended. I appreciate the apologies. I love the love in this room. I love American Canyon. You guys can see it on my face how genuine it is. But what happened on the 20th was not okay, and we do need to do better. I accept the apologies, but I look forward to us as a team doing better. So thank you. That's all I had to say. I just
Thank
needed
you.
to get that off of my chest. So thank you for indulging.
Thank you. Thank you. Nope. I'd just like to make some comments as we have a nomination in a second. We need to do a roll call. Before that, I think I'd like to extend again personally. I'm sorry for the hurt.
And I really appreciate it.
I'm sorry that it has caused you. My intention was to have all of us fully informed to make a decision, and that's all it was. From the audience tonight, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate all the comments. It's valuable information. I appreciate the comment about learning from this, doing better, growing. In my professional experience, I've also had to deal with the training issues related to this. And I would take Councilmember Albadamos's words and those mentioned in the audience. I want to see that we have diversity, equity, and inclusion, gender equity training for all council members, city staff as well, as seen by Mr. Hawley. I think this would be a way to learn and to do better, and take it to heart. Because unintentionally, for my part, I caused anxiety and hurt, which I'm sorry for. And I think I've heard that reflected through the council as well. So we can learn to do better. I just comment on my look into it. You got a call from Councilmember Albadamos. We had a very productive, lengthy conversation, I felt. I said, well, we need to look into it. So I go on the LAFCO webpage, look at the meeting minutes, attendance. Councilmember Albadamos is representing us. Good. Talk to Ken Leary. You're on the LAFCO board. How's Miriam do on the board? Councilmember Albadamos do on the board. She contributes like she does at city council meetings. Okay, good. That's encouraging. LAFCO, talk with Mr. Ross, as he pointed out, quite an expert on LAFCO. LAFCO is a state agency. Appointees are there to represent, their voice is independent of the city council. They're there to represent the interest of the people. Have I got that right, Mr. Ross? Okay. So to think that we can give her direction on that, she's independent. She listens to the voice of the community. I'm assuming that's what that means. That would include voices from city council, but it's a more global perspective. In my opinion, she's eminently qualified to serve on LAFCO board. All that tells me there's no reason to have any decision other than that. So, thank you.
Mr., there's a motion on the floor.
Yes, can we do a roll call now?
Councilmember Albadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
I'd like to make a couple of comments. First, I agree. I am happy and obviously need some training. I apologize for what wasn't said, but I also want to emphasize I was the person who supported Miriam to retain her on the position on December 20th. I made that motion for the very reasons that you've all brought up. So I want to emphasize, as much as I apologize for not calling out the discrimination and the comments, I understood the merits of keeping her on. That's why I made the motion. That's why I seconded the motion tonight. That's why I'm voting yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington.
And before I make my answer, I just want to make sure that for those of you who are inquiring minds, I will be enrolling in a diversity and inclusion class, although I just completed one last week for Genentech. So I will do another one because obviously I need a refresher. Having a law enforcement, excuse me? You could lead it. I can lead it. I probably could lead it. But having a law enforcement background, I probably should have said something, and I didn't. So I apologize again for not saying something. But you have a yes.
And Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Abadamos?
No, we got everybody, right? Well, very good. I look forward to hearing back from issues on LAFCO, Councilmember Abadamos.
Absolutely.
And we certainly appreciate your service you provide for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe it's time for a little brief recess. I don't know how many folks want to remain for the rest of the council meeting, but why don't we give it, say, 5 minutes? Thank you. Thank you all for coming this evening.
Are you guys too warm? Are you warm? There's a lot of people in here.
Thank you for your comments. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll work on my last one. Oh, God. That was a tough one.
Hey, Sylvia? Sylvia? About 6 or 7 months ago, I dropped...
I'm doing fine. I want to talk to Lisa. Lisa. I want to talk to Lisa.
I would love to you guys do more of that. Because I love the on my email I got a little calendar invite. You can do that, and you can just find a time and go from there. Okay, thank you. It wasn't detailed. I gotta tell you right now, that wasn't detailed.
She's doing really well.
Talk to Mary.
All right.
No. But before this issue, did you talk to her about watch the movie? Really, you do.
Miriam asked us to be here. I showed us. It's like.
That's amazing. You could read the newspaper.
Hi, Lily.
أنا على الشاشة ويني على الشاشة؟
Oh, one of these?
Yeah, I bought two.
Like this?
I don't think we ever get ready. I'm not ready. I'm over in the high school now, and I'm just kind of like, how was school today? Everything's fine, Mom. You'll do great. He's good as long as he happens. Oh, she's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna what? Oh, nice. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. And Vanessa's doing an amazing job. Yeah. But you'll be needed again in middle school, so please don't. Because that's what keeps it going. And, yeah. But you know, there's a really great opportunity with the middle school because it's a very different type of engagement. And there's parents that are like, okay, so we're not being pulled all the time and we want to be involved. And, you know, the kids don't want us there. The teachers kind of are like, you know, and then so PTO is, I mean, like, there's a great framework. Yeah. The happy is still there, so like, you know, caveats, yeah. Okay, I was Nicole, Kathy, and Vanessa. Oh, awesome. You got good people to pull from. Yeah. Good, yeah. Yes, and I'm actually trying to, I just reached out to Phillips. Oh, good.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, that's one of the really great things about her is that she is so encouraging. Well, and she knows her mind. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, good. That's awesome. When is outdoor ed for you guys? May 30th. Okay. Our kids just left it. Well, our
you back.
It's a great, exciting opportunity. I know my third grader's already talking about it. She's like, in 2 years, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, so you are. Okay, you're coming with me, not. So I'm like,
Okay, if we could clear the council chambers for conversation. Council members return to the dais. Council members, let's see, Council Member Joseph, Council Member Oro, where is Council Member Washington? No personal break? Yes.
Probably. Just move that way.
Next street over. I see him walking his dog and stuff.
Looking into cars. Peering over fences.
Okay, council members. You know, it was very well attended and very good discussion and comments from the public. And look forward to seeing what, excuse me. Looking forward to seeing the training coming forward on gender equity, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Yes, Mayor, we're looking into potential options, and we'll keep the council and staff apprised of what we're going to do with that.
Thank you. Might be, I was just thinking the League of California Cities, we have the AB 1234 and the, what's the harassment. Might be worthwhile recommending to the league, certainly, that this is not unique to American Canyon, that maybe they should be including that in their required training.
We'll let the council know what we come up with.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you want to attend to?
Mayor, I've been in touch with the party who is most interested in item number 13 tonight. Given the length of our prior conversation, they requested that we continue this public hearing, item number 13, to our February 1st meeting. There won't be any need to renotice it,
Okay.
but they've requested a continuance to February 1st.
Motion to continue that to February 1st.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos? Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Thank you. We were now at consent calendar.
We have one more public hearing, Mayor. This would be item 14. Starting on page 159 of the packet.
We didn't take care of the consent
We didn't do
calendar, though.
consent.
Oh, you're right, Mayor. I
no.
forgot.
And I believe
We still have the
Councilmember Joseph
consent
wanted to pull
calendar.
one for discussion.
Thank you, Mary. You're right. The not simple consent calendar, as I remember.
Councilmember Joseph, what was your item?
Number 11, the pro-housing designation, only because in reading the staff report, it makes it sound like it was something for a discussion, but it was on consent. So maybe I just need some clarification on what was the intent.
We have brief
Sure.
clarification?
Brent would be happy to come up and kind of talk about it. I'll summarize it. The pro-housing designation is a program that State Department of Housing and Community Development has. It's an optional program. It's kind of you're doing a really good job, kind of a certification, basically, with housing. So, in taking a look at it, Brent was able to
We'll
observe.
take this one up, come back and take care of the remainder of the consent calendar after.
Okay.
Mr. Cooper.
Anyways, it doesn't have to be, there's no reason it has to be a business item. We just felt we were already doing these items, and so we put it on consent.
Want to
But
continue
we
with
can
that?
talk about it individually, certainly.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yeah, if the intent was that it should be a consent item because you're simply applying and you aren't asking us to do anything that we aren't already doing, then I would withdraw pulling it from consent, particularly for the sake of time.
All right. Thank you.
And with that,
Motion for the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. Roll call, please.
Yes, with my mic on.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. We'll move on now to public hearings. Number 13 is going to be on February 1st, and item 14, addition of chapter 2.30 to the American Canyon Municipal Code, creating the Open Space Active Transportation and Sustainability Commission, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and I'm laughing at the typo behind my my name there. I'm the manager, not the manger. But regardless, this is really a follow-up item to the work plan for the new Open Space Active Transportation and Sustainability Commission. The council approved moving forward with that body back in December, but we needed to reconcile the municipal code and have this commission established with the same sort of standing that both the Planning Commission and the Parks and Community Services Commission have. So this item tonight is, really procedural in nature, modifies the municipal code to add a new Open Space Active Transportation and Sustainability Commission, a new section of the municipal code. This is the first reading of that, and we come back as a second reading in February.
Good.
I'll add on one little extra piece. We literally took the same language that was in the Parks and Community Service municipal code. So where the language talks about a commission, it's referring, we did basically a copy and paste. And so it's very, very similar to Parks and Community Services. We replaced the name, but all the other aspects of it are identical to the Parks and Community Services Commission's parts of the municipal code.
Okay, made sure that the name changes were consistent. Very good.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
We're on item 13, right?
14.
Oh, right.
That's right, we know that, right?
And I have I've drawn up the ordinance to look at it. Again. Okay, so that's the background from Mr. Holly. Discussion. Vice Mayor Washington.
Yeah, City Manager, Holly? Quick question though, will this transition also have the current members transition over? Or is there gonna be a appointing type process that we're gonna go through?
Yeah, that's a great question, Vice Mayor Washington. At your last meeting, the council was supportive of the idea of the three incumbents on the former OSAC, that they continue on now as members of the new OSAT's body. And so in keeping with that, what staff would recommend is in the future, we expect to have some interviews. There are 2 vacancies on this commission at the moment, and there'll be interviews for those 2 positions. What's customary after those interviews are underway and completed, and the 2 members have been selected by the council, that you actually swear in those members at that time, and you do all of this by a minute order to have the record of who's on that body. Staff proposes to just add to that minute order to memorialize the 3 individuals who will stay on from OSAC and go on to the OSAT's body. So we would just do it at that time at the interviews to just say, and these other 3 people make up the rest of the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Joseph?
Yes, moving to the draft ordinance, section 2-30-010, creation of the open space and initial terms. It talks about, except that the terms of members of the initial commission shall expire 3 years after the effective date of the appointment, and appointments made after the commencement will be staggered or shall be for the balance of the unexpired term. We just talked about how we're going to update it. That language seems inconsistent. I'm not sure if it really matters because, well, or either we need to amend that or have some clarification that seems to be kind of inconsistent with what we're saying, or maybe it isn't. I don't know. That's the first question in terms of language that I have. The second one is section 2-30-040 subsection C, talking about subcommittees and subcommittees of the commission, and then the language says the commission shall make appointments of committee and subcommittee members with the approval of the city manager or designee. And I don't know if that's the language in PCS and planning, but it seems to me that the commission should be able to appoint their committees and subcommittees based on the commission making those appointments. I don't know if approval of the city manager is appropriate or warranted. So those are my only 2 technical things that actually I forgot about when I made my comments earlier this morning to you. And so those are the only 2 comments I have, if you could clarify.
What section is that again?
Section 2-30-10, about the initial appointment, and that I think is not a serious issue. The one I have more concerns with is 230.040 subsection C, regarding subcommittees. And I would be using page numbers, but Granicus doesn't give me page numbers, I don't think.
No, I found it, at least.
So, okay.
Thank you.
It's a great point, Councilmember Joseph. The first issue that you raised in section 230010, the last part of that talks about the duration of 3 of the members, and it gets to the point of how, so we don't have them all the members up and have their terms expiring at the same time was the intent of that. Yeah. I think the previous sections of the code talk about 4-year appointments. Mm-hmm. So we could probably actually just strike that entire phrase after the word code and comma, turning that to a period, and probably strike the rest. I don't know that we need to specify the duration of those initial terms.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good solution. Because trying to clarify the staggering when there isn't staggering.
There's no need for that.
If the other 3 are already going to roll forward in a staggered manner, we can do that in the minute order that says their appointment and all that. So.
Okay, that sounds like the right answer to solving that one.
Mark, that would, you do retain the provision then because of the reference to 04070, It's complete with your discretion. So you still control it in whatever way you want to.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So that portion, I would agree, can be stricken.
Okay. And that doesn't mess with the first reading because we're amending it right here.
You haven't made the motion.
Ah, okay. Good, good.
As it relates to the second item, as who appointments of committee and subcommittees, this is the language that came from PCS, and so that's why it's in there. If the council wants to strike it, that's fine too. I understand the perspective. So, in the sense, it's kind of holdover language from PCS. So, again, I don't know that we envision a lot of committees and subcommittees with how we're orchestrating things. What we're really, the council is probably going to be involved if we're looking at issues that are so either long-standing or pertinent that require a committee. And that's going to be part of the work plan process. But if the council wants to strike the second part of that last sentence, there's no reason you can't.
Yeah, if it's consistent with the other two commissions, I'm inclined to support consistency and just rhetorically say we should have caught it in
Look,
the others
I think
too,
it's,
but
yeah,
that's another
you're on the right
story.
track.
Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective,
Yeah.
it's just consistency with all the other commissions should be there. This is by fault going to take care of that staggered appointment.
So I think just deleting the staggered appointment is good enough for me then.
Okay. Any other comment on this? Any public comment received on this item? Public hearing is open.
I have no hands raised.
Okay, anybody attending wishing to comment on this? Seeing none, hearing none, public comment is closed. Return to council for further discussion, desired action.
If there's no other comments, then I'll make a motion that we waive the first reading and read by title only and introduce an ordinance number 2023 next in order, an ordinance of the City of American Canyon adding Chapter 2.30 to the American Canyon Municipal Code and creating the Open Space, Active Transportation, and Sustainability Commission with the proviso as amended, with the deletion of the last section in 2.30.010.
I'll second.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes, thank you, council. Moving on to our business items. We now, first business item up would be item 16, MCE Clean Energy Representative.
Okay, so this is a MCE Clean Energy Board of Directors. Representative in the past has been a Board of Supervisor, previously Brad Wagenknecht, now Ryan Gregory, and he represented American Canyon, Napa, Yountville, St. Helena, Calistoga. And the alternate was the current chair of the Napa County City Selection Committee. Due to the growth of MCE, they have reached out to each individual city and asked if they wanted to continue to be represented by their county or if they wanted to appoint their own city representative and alternate. So this evening, we're asking council to either confirm continued representation by MCE, by the Napa County representative, or to appoint an American Canyon representative and alternate for the MCE Board of Directors.
Okay, thank you. Council discussion, Councilmember Oro.
I'm fine with keeping it as county, unless I could be persuaded otherwise.
Any other council comment?
I am interested but don't have the time, so I was going to offer myself as an alternate to someone else, but
Okay. I'm satisfied with the representation structure we've had in the past. And I do on occasion work with now Supervisor Ryan Gregory. And I think his position is something that's very acceptable to American Canyon. Ready for public comment? Anybody in the public wishing to comment on this? Anybody online?
I have no public comment.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none. Council, public comment on this matter is closed. We will return to council for further discussion, desired action.
I'll move to have the MCE Clean Energy Representative be a county representative on behalf of American Canyon.
I'll second.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes, thank you, council. Item 17, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, MTC, Napa County appointment.
Okay. Similar situation, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, MTC, the representative has been Napa County Supervisor Alfredo Pedroza. His term is set to expire. The Napa County Board of Supervisors has instructed the City Selection Committee for the County of Napa to furnish the board with the names of 3 nominees from which the board will appoint a representative to represent Napa County for a new 4-year term. American Canyon City Council has the opportunity to put forward any council members who wish to be considered as a nominee for the MTC appointment by the Napa County City Selection Committee. So we've been asked to adopt a minute order, either supporting Supervisor Alfredo Pedroza's continued representation or to submit a nomination of any council members that are interested that would be forwarded to the Napa County City Selection Committee and ultimately the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Any, ready for council discussion? Councilmember Oral?
Yeah, I know he just said he doesn't have time, but he is the vice chair of the Napa Valley Transportation Authority at this time, and if Councilmember Joseph would be so inclined, it would be great to have him on MTC as well.
Well, although I appreciate that, the real advantage of Supervisor Pedroza is similar to the real advantage Bill Dodd had when he was on the Board of Supervisors. Being chair of MTC gives you a lot of access to resources and can assist in getting things done. If I were on MTC, I doubt if I'd be the chair, and I'd be the new kid on the block, and I think Napa County wouldn't get as much financial support as we would with Alfredo staying there. So I appreciate it, but I'm gonna try to do the best job I can as the NVTA vice chair, and try to talk him into getting some more funding for us in our transportation needs in the South County.
Other comment? I do, as ABAG is a component of MTC now, I do have that opportunity to work with Supervisor Pedroza on those committees and the issues that come forward. And I support him continuing that position. I think he does a good job in that area. It's one of those where you have an awful lot of interesting constituents. I would put that phrase, rephrase that more like full house full. It's 109 cities, 101 cities and 9 counties represented by that. So it's it can be very challenging at times, but certainly the workload is pretty tremendous as well. So, but he does a good job for us, so I support him. Any other comment? Any public comment on this? Seeing none, hearing none?
None online.
Well, if there's no other comment, I'll make a motion that we support Supervisor Pedroza's continued representation on MTC.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Abstain.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
And Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you.
I just have a quick clarifying question. It was my understanding that if you abstain from a vote, you have to indicate why. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Your abstention Councilmember Oral?
I nominated my Councilmember Mark Joseph, and he declined.
Sufficient.
Okay, that's sufficient. Satisfied for the question? Councilmember Abadamas?
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Okay. Move on our agenda then. Item 18, maintenance of utilities department, parks, buildings maintenance, fleet update.
Before we get started, Mayor and Council, we have updates both from Felix and Ally on Park and Recreation. We're still not at 9 o'clock yet, and the presentations won't take us all the way till 10 o'clock. So there's nothing urgent about the timing of these presentations. If the council wants to hear them, certainly happy to do that. If felt like moving them to our next meeting, we can accommodate that too.
Okay.
Well, it's actually past 9 o'clock. It's 9:17.
Sorry, I meant 10 o'clock, not 9 o'clock.
9:17. And we do have another closed session.
That's true. We talked about going back into closed session as well, so I'll let you help me with agenda management a little bit. What's your preference among those ideas?
Well, if we look at them in a timely manner, I think the close is probably important, and we could use that time. I don't mean to discredit these guys.
I was actually going to say the same thing. No offense, Felix and Ally, we'd love to hear from you, but our closed session item is super important, and we had decided that if we go past 10, we would not be hearing it. So I would prefer we continue and we go into closed.
If it's okay with council and staff, we could continue this till our next meeting?
We can.
Anything urgent in this that needs a